for some reason when I was a toddler, I decided that I loved Dracula. I'm not sure why, but my mom was like, probably the case. It's pretty cool. And he had like the talks going. And so the Frank Langella Dracula in the 70s came out. My mom was like, oh, well, we'll take you to see that. You're 3 and it's R-rated. So it's pretty fucked up. I don't know if you've seen it, but like there's a part where Frank Langella, Laurence Olivier digs up his daughter's grave, and like she comes and she's like, Daddy! And he's like stabbing her in the heart, and there's blood spewing everywhere. And the interesting thing to me is I didn't see it again until like 20 years later or something when it was on video, and I was like, oh, I saw that when I was 3. I don't know if that's interesting. Like I wonder if it's as weird as I remember it. And then when I was watching it, I was able to say what was going to happen in the next scene, even though I hadn't seen it since I was 3 years old. And I think that what's really interesting is because horror sort of taps into your subconscious, the creator of it can really, push their sleeves up and get in there and like wire you in really ways that will last with you for your entire life. And I think that is like a really awesome thing to bring a corrupt attitude to and like really be damaging to people.
Well, I'm the guy at the end. Pretty much everybody said what I was thinking. Because I think that's very much the part of why people like us, find each other, because we all think the same screwy stuff. But I grew up in the country, in the woods, and there was always scary shit in the woods. I'd wake from the bus, and I was always afraid of everything. And I think I spent my first 10 years of life scared of everything. It's like figuring out if you make shit that's scary, you control the scary. And so if I made a story about in the woods, well, nothing could be more screwed up than what I made up, right? So I think at a certain point, maybe that's what I'm not doing anymore. I make so much, I control things I'm afraid of by making it up. And it's, I think that's part of the appeal I think when you're watching or reading horror is that you're able to control, you can decide when you turn the page, you can decide when you watch the movie. But part of it is like life is scary and full of things that you can't control. And sitting down and consuming horror entertainment is something you can't. It's sort of a way to deal with the worst things in life, in pretty much a fun way.
Yeah, it feels like horror is almost like to me, it's almost like a drug where you're looking for the next big thing. I saw some type of smaller horror movie as a kid, just like after horror movies that you see on the matinee. And I just wanted to more and more and more. Mark, it was kind of like what you said, where as soon as I got that kind of fix, you wanted just the next thing, where how dark, how awful can we go? So, do you guys feel that way? Is that something that runs through your head? Or is it just
I actually don't have that thing where I want it to get scarier, gorier, grosser. I don't have that. I'd rather it be like more in-depth and more personal.
Character-based. Because I think if you get to a certain point, there's only so much gore you throw in someone's face. After a while, you're like, guts and knives and blood, and no matter what, it's like, that was it. But it's not a better context, a more interesting story, a better character. I think that's my chase.
I'm of two minds, because one of my favorite films, top 5 probably is Network. That's one of the best satires ever written. And personally, the types of stories that I want to tell are all satires. But that's not always what I want to input. And I'll watch anything. I mean, I don't know anyone that will, except for my colleague here, Mr. Van Meers, I don't know anyone's willing to go as far as I am. But I don't want to speak for anyone on this panel.
I remember I went through a phase where I wanted to see all the hardcore ones. So I saw them Under the Sun, Cannibal Holocaust, everything. And then you feel at a certain point, you're like, I can't unsee that. And now, somebody trying to learn. Because I feel like I was part of that. You just had. So, and then I just watched nice and horror movies.
Have you guys seen The Bunny Game?
Oh yeah, I did love The Bunny Game. I felt it was hard to snub extreme horror films because, we've seen The Bunny Game, we know what we're talking about. It is, everyone else will see it. It's amazing movie. It's Adam Ray. And he gets got protagonizing this film, and Rosaline had actually been abducted, and she was tortured, and somehow she survived this. So she decided she wanted to relive this experience by making a film of it. So now all of a sudden this horrific experience she was forced to live through, but now they're going to do it with the film so she could still take a step back. And she actually gets branded, and it's like a very hardcore film and a very loose script, but at the same time she's like, I want to show what we can go through and be like, I survived that one. And some people are like, oh, you should do that. She's like, well, that's how I went through it, and you don't have to see it. Yeah, it's again more so therapeutic. And they said, did you feel unsafe when you were on set? She's like, no, because even though I'm letting myself get hit and tortured, I'm on set. If I actually say, okay, stop, someone will stop. But when she was abducted, there's no, okay, that's wrong, can you stop?
You can't yell cut.
Exactly. That's why I'm so against fucking censorship, because life doesn't come with censorship. Did anyone see that dog get shot? The cop that shot the dog? It was horrible. Or that 3 guys, 1 hammer video that was floating around. Nobody watched any of that. That's horrible. Why are you saying it?
Do not go home and Google.
That's the whole reason I saw Hellraiser. Someone said, don't watch that, and I was 12, and I was like, what are you, don't tell me what to do.
But that's the thing that can be so awesome about horror movies, especially when you're younger, is that you think they're gonna hurt you.
Yeah.
Like I remember before I saw the movie Scanners, just from like reading a video box, I thought that if you watched the movie, your head would explode. So for like years, I was like terrified to see that movie, and you know, and there's a certain it happens much more when you're younger. Like before you see Texas Chainsaw Massacre, there's something about that movie where you're afraid it's going to hurt you, and it's an amazing feeling. And so it's not necessarily about getting more and more gory, but it is about like, you know, finding new ways to expose that truth of like, how can you make a movie that's going to hurt people? And like Irreversible is a movie that hurts the fuck out of people. And Martyrs, I don't know if you guys know the movie Martyrs, I think it's one of the greatest movies of the past 10 years.
Absolutely.
I love that movie so much, and I love watching it, and I love showing it to people. And every time I show it to people, I have to give them this long disclaimer about like, this is a work of genius, but it's gonna hurt you. It's okay if you shut it off at about the 62-minute mark, you know, but like, you know, his ability as a filmmaker to make a movie that hurts you that badly is so remarkable. And so that, I think that's an important thing to push for in horror, and you can do it without gore, probably. It's not, you know, it's about emotional violence. It's about believing the violence. It's not about seeing the violence.
I would agree. The gore that they do in Martyrs is amazing. The last sequence in that, I won't tell you what happened, but oh my gosh. But then you look at the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and people actually believed they were seeing limbs chainsawed off. They thought that woman got put on a hook. It actually got banned in Toronto because a homicide detective saw it and said, you can't show that, people are getting chopped up. But he just thought he saw it in his mind, and that's how they do it. And I think they can get into you without doing all that gore.
Absolutely, The Exorcist. I wouldn't play with a Ouija board until The Craft came out in the 90s. It was all about the Ouija board then.
Well, on the flip side, comedy seems to be a really important part of horror. Brandon, you mentioned that. How did each of you guys use comedy as that kind of breath of fresh air after the scare? Or do you guys
It can
avoid
be a
that?
palate cleanser, and it can also be, yeah, but the thing is, like, on the one hand, you're trying to make people laugh, on the other hand, you're trying to scare them. If you go too far in either direction, it's not going to work. You're only going to get one, or you're going to get the other. But if you're doing horror and you're including comedy, it can either be a palate cleanser. Like, there are times when, you know, if you want to continue having like a strong impact on the audience, you need to stop what you're doing and do something completely different, so they have an opportunity to recover before you continue with the onslaught. And then the other thing that you can do is you can set up the horror much more effectively if you're going from, something that Joss Whedon does a lot. Laughing, ah! Or laughing. So that's the two kind of things that I really like about it are, either going from horror to comedy or going from comedy to horror.
I think that might be, because if you think about sitting in a movie theater, when a big scare happens, everyone screams, and then what immediately follows?
Laughter.
Exactly. I think it's just part of the natural, whatever it is, the patterns, the biorhythm, the scare, it's this thing that comes out of you, and then the natural thing that happens afterwards is, oh yeah, all right. And I don't know if I deliberately do that when I write for the panel page, but it just feels, even when because you're there and you're writing it and you're going through it. So when the bad thing happens, there's always that moment afterwards where you're just like, fucking.
And I mean, there's a certain level of absurdity to horror fiction.
Yeah.
Because you are getting scared by a book or a comic or a TV show or a movie. It's just fiction. So if you're scared by that, I think there is like a natural reaction to laugh at your fear of that.
I love horror with comedy, and I think because of Stephen King, I just thought, oh, it's supposed to go together, and it really does, and that's beautiful how you said it was a palate cleanser, because it really is. When Syl and I write together, she will write the most fucking god-awful scene in the world, and the first thing I say after, okay, yeah, you're brilliant, I have to be really funny now, because people have been just beaten down so harsh by what just happened that they need a little bit of a release afterwards. Otherwise, you can't just watch Martyrs every day unless you're her.